Club here. And, you know, Raymond, you're right. I think that went back to like 1997, man. Raised in the Sun.
You was a young cat then, man.
Yeah, man. I was, 17 years old then. I'm giving away my age now. So, but that's right. That was the first time I met you. And here we are, 14 years later, I guess. And I'm still at it, man. Still at it professionally and doing quite well. Doing some pretty interesting things, actually, to speak of.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, you know, if you had my job, if you had to switch places with me, you would probably cut your throat and jump off of a building and whatnot. He's laughing, but I mean, listen to that voice. He does voiceover work for, I think I heard you doing Coca-Cola one day.
Yeah, I did Coca-Cola a few years ago for the NCAA March Madness tournament. They do a partnership with Coca-Cola. It's for their Recycle Mania campaign, and I did their voice spot a couple years ago. And at the Georgia Dome, where one of the regional tournaments was held, they had about 40,000, 50,000 people on hand to listen to the ad. So I've gone on to do some stuff with Coca-Cola, Ruben Studdard. In fact, I just narrated a book by a minister and former military gentleman by the name of James Puckett. That book is called Inform Them, Reform Them, and Transform Them. It's a great book. I mean, if you're a parent out there, and I'm not trying to, be on Mr. Puckett's promo team here, but I'm just sort of speaking from someone who is a parent, and having had the opportunity to narrate the book, it is something to really pay attention to when it comes to where our children are today in terms of just respect, personal integrity, dignity, and all those things that you and I, Raymond, grew up as kids, sort of having, I think, a more clear understanding about these kids today are sort of left in left field, I think, in many times when it comes to knowing what integrity means and what discipline is and what respect is and those things. And I've narrated Dr. Creflo Dollar's 8 Steps to Create the Life You Want. So I've done some interesting things in the voiceover world, in addition to the acting and the music. So I keep, between all three, I keep pretty active.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this morning. First thing I want to ask you is, let's go all the way back to Raising in the Sun at Pleasantville High School. The theater world, especially in this area, was very different back then. I don't even believe there was an AC Theater Guild. If it was very, very young.
Right.
So why did you get so into theater at such an early age, at a time when it seemed like you were probably the only one doing it? I'm not knocking you because no, but
I understand.
Our kids today, they're such followers, a lot of them. Absolutely. They couldn't imagine doing something that would make them stick out as much as you did at that particular time.
I'm actually glad you asked that question, Raymond, because I think for those that are listening, that have kids and kids that are listening, I was, first of all, I was a very popular basketball player, and that's what I wanted to do. And that sports, as it still does, dominates the lives of African American youth, and it was no different for me. I wanted to be a ball player. I was on the varsity team, and it was really weird because somewhere sophomore year, and I can't really explain it, but it was almost something like an inner voice that said to me, you don't want to do this anymore, and that was very surprising, not just to me, but to teachers and coaches and people that knew me, because they all knew me. In fact, my nickname was Magic, after Magic Johnson, because my game was sort of like Magic's, and like I said, I was a very popular basketball player, and that's for a long time what I wanted to do. And it was just something that's, I don't know, again, it was this inner voice that I heard, and it was just like, you're going to always love basketball. You're always going to have a great affinity for it, but it's not going to be something that you want to ultimately do with your life. And I'll never forget, the principal of the high school asked me, as he would often call upon me to do other things, he asked me to actually perform Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech at Mount Zion. And I knew nothing about acting, not one bit of anything regarding, related to acting. I just knew that I didn't want to recite the speech because I felt like anybody could get up there and do it.
Right.
So I basically decided to watch videotapes of Martin Luther King for about a week, get his dialect down, his mannerisms, his vocalities, if you will, down. And man, when I did that speech, man, I'll never forget it. It was packed house. Former Philadelphia Mayor Wilson Goode was in attendance and got a standing ovation after that, man. And it wasn't so much the standing ovation, but it was how people responded to me afterward, how much they were touched and felt, and many of the comments I got, was akin to basically feeling as if King was in the building himself that day.
Right.
And when that happened, that's when the theater light went off for me.
Well, just recently we saw an excellent production of August Wilson's 10-play cycle from Pittsburgh. Shout out to Arnell Lyles, who better be on this show very, very soon.
Yeah,
I'm calling her like
absolutely.
every day to get her on here. But anyway, we both remarked at how transformative August Wilson's words are. And I dare say that if you listen in earnest to Dr. King, his words are transformative as well.
Absolutely.
And because I can tell you from listening to Dr. King and even reading some of his speeches, that inspires me to be a better radio show host as well. So absolutely. I can easily see where that kind of took you to the next step. Let me ask you this. I was not a varsity basketball player. I felt like I could have been.
Okay.
And definitely being from this area, I feel as though even if I didn't play varsity basketball, I could have easily went to a Division II or III school.
Sure.
And done very well in basketball. But one thing always troubled me in regards to the way I would see some of the coaches interact with players, and it would almost be like they would only be able to relate to them as basketball players. They would only relate to them as basketball players,
absolutely.
Not as individuals, absolutely. Definitely not as human beings, the absolutely. Way I interpret interaction with human beings to be.
Absolutely.
So that played a big part in me not really wanting to play organized ball. Did that come into play with you at all as far as walking away from organized ball?
Well, it's interesting, and sort of parlaying on what I was talking about and transitioning into the world of theater. I think all the coaches and fellow players, they always knew that basketball was not something that I needed to do. I mean, I was a great student. I was involved in a bunch of activities in school. And so basketball was never something that I needed to do. And I think that sort of showcased itself, my sophomore year, because I basically said, and also, for me, I was always a person that walked to the beat of my own drums. So I was always my own leader. I was never following anybody, and that, to me, that's what kids lack today. Just that heartfelt desire to basically say, you know what, I'm my own person. I'm my own person. And think about it, Ray. I mean, think about the age we live in. We live in an age of Facebook and Twitter, people following everybody.
Yes,
which is great. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I use both of them. But the point is that it's sort of hitting home that theme of following. Following somebody. Following. And at some point, it's like, when do you lead?
Exactly.
When do you lead?
You know what I always think about, and you tell me how you feel about this, and then we have to go to a break. If I had been a teenager in the years during Facebook and MySpace and the internet boom, I think I would have had my show, like, everything I've done, I would have done like 10 years earlier.
Absolutely.
And that's what I don't understand with kids. I mean, I'm no spring chicken, but I wake up every day and I don't even know what I want to do with myself. Like I could be an astronaut if I want to.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these kids, a lot of them I talk to will see they have no vision,
No.
and they have. When I was in high school, there was NBC, CBS,
Right.
and ABC.
Right.
It wasn't even Fox yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I couldn't. Now, CNBC, MTV, if all that stuff had been around when I got out of high school, man.
Right, the world would have been yours.
Exactly.
Then.
Then.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Exactly. So I don't know. I don't know what happened or how we can get that back. But I'm glad that you're here with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Leonard Dozier, and we have to take a quick break. But when we come back, I'm going to ask him about his acting career, the music, and all that good stuff. So you're listening to The Breakfast Club. We'll be back right after these messages.